20 years old and having a voice change? Why would I think that that's a possibility when my voice isn't working? Hi friends, it is so good to be talking with you all again. I realize that the month of January is almost gone and this is only like my second video that I've posted, so I apologize about that, but this video is to kind of explain to you why that is, what's been going on, and as some of you know, if you follow me on Instagram, then you'll kind of know that there was some stuff going on with my voice. And obviously, if you're here watching the video, you've seen the title of it, so you are kind of aware of what to expect in this video. But if you're not following me on Instagram, then you should go do that. Here is my handle, and there's a link in the description. Go follow me there. I post a lot more over there. I feel like this video is going to be all over the place. I'm going to hate editing it, but I'm going to try and keep this as concise as possible and not jumping all over the place. So let's jump right in. Like I said, as a lot of you know, there was some stuff going on with my voice earlier this month. So that all kind of started when I got sick on New Year's Eve. Lasted for about a week, and I'm sure all of you know, like, when you get sick, it's like you're sick for this amount of time and then recovery is like 2 or 3 times what the length of being sick was. I wasn't too thrilled about that, because I do have a very big project coming up. I'm recording this video on Friday the 24th, and my big project is on Tuesday the 28th. I'm not positive when this video is going to go up on YouTube. So this is something that has happened in a very, very short time frame. So like I said, I got sick on New Year's Eve about I don't know, it was like 5 days, I guess, after that. I was feeling a lot better, not really sick anymore, but still having the side effects of being sick. And one of those things was that on like the last day of being sick, I started to lose my voice a little bit, which is something that's normal. So the next day I was feeling a lot better. My voice was coming back, you know, I definitely could talk and things. And Monday, or I guess I was on like a Tuesday maybe. And I get voice coaching every week, and that's on Thursday. So Thursday at my voice lesson, because I was telling him, you know, I've been sick, and of course he could hear it, I still had a bit of congestion in my chest, and my vocal cords still sounded a bit inflamed. With my project coming up, because there was like 3 weeks until my project at this point, we were just wanting to take extra steps to be cautious and making sure that my voice was ready for it. So he put me on vocal rest for about 3 days. It ended up being about 3.5 days that I was on vocal rest. No talking, no singing, no anything that like use your vocal cords. At the end of those 3.5 days, I did some, during those 3.5 days, I was steaming. I was, you know, taking natural supplements and things like that, decongestants, and doing like sinus sprays and the throat sprays, you know, honey, and drinking like throat coat tea and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of those 3.5 days, I did some very light warm-ups, and my voice was feeling a whole lot better, like a lot better than it had been before. My voice wasn't hurting or anything like that. It was just like it was inflamed, and you can't really do anything about that, but it didn't hurt. So it was feeling a lot looser, you know, there was no notes that I really wasn't able to vocalize on, which normally happens when my vocal cords are inflamed. There's a section of my voice that I basically can't make any sound. And this time around, it was my, in my head voice. I could sing in my lower chest range and in my middle voice, but in my head voice, I could not hit a single note. So I was glad that I could hit some notes in there the day after my vocal rest. So I just took it like lightly for the next couple of days, not singing every day, and I guess it was the day before my next lesson, so it's been about a week at this point. We got 2 weeks before my project, and I was doing a little bit more vocalizing just to see how things would go, and it wasn't working again. And I'm singing, and the notes that I was singing felt different, like the way that I was singing them, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I'm like trying to work through this, and I'm getting frustrated because my voice feels fine. I feel like I can sing, but there's something wrong. My voice, I'm like, my lower voice is perfectly fine. My middle voice is fine. My upper voice was not the same light voice that it was before. For those of you who don't know, I am a soprano, or was. You've seen the title of this video. I still kind of am. We'll get into that later. But for the last, because I've been getting voice coaching for about 4 or 5 years now, and I've been typed out as a soprano. And that's not just like somebody said, oh, you're going to sing soprano. Okay, now I'm singing like a soprano. No. My voice fit into the category of being a soprano. And that's the thing here, is that my vocal coach is extremely knowledgeable about the voice. He takes a very natural approach to just letting the voice do what happens naturally. But my voice was a soprano, and the reason here is that voice types are categorized by where the voice transitions between modes. Not necessarily like the range that you have or the notes that you hit, but it's where your voice transitions. And my voice transitioned like a soprano. When I was warming up that one day, because I had to sing, I'm at an E5, and it doesn't sound anything like it sounded before. It doesn't feel like it felt before. It wasn't easy to hit. Didn't have that same light sound to it or feel to it anymore. And I'm going, what is going on with my voice? Like, this can't be happening 2 weeks before this project. Thursday at my lesson, I was explaining all of this to my voice instructor and what happened after my vocal rest, and he's just kind of sitting there looking at me. He's like, okay. So he's like, we'll just take it very easy today and see how it goes. So I'm vocalizing very lightly. So he like sits at the piano, and then I stand on the other, or it's like a keyboard, and I stand on the other side of it. And so I can't see the keyboard, which is a really good thing because then I don't know what notes I'm singing. And we're warming up, and I'm just letting my voice sing what it wants to naturally, like I always do, not thinking too much about it, and letting it transition where it wants to transition. My low voice, everything felt perfect. Everything felt great. In fact, I would say it sounded a little better than it had before. I had a lot more notes in my bottom range. Like I said, I can't see what he's playing, but I know that these notes are pretty low. And I was singing down to like an E3. And he's just sitting there like what? He goes, I don't know where these notes came from. I'm like, I don't know where they came from. I'm just singing. We were working up into mode 2, like through that transition. He stops and he goes, it's almost like your voice is a mezzo-soprano now. It's wanting to transition more at an E4 instead of a G4. And I said, really? I said, do you think that my vocal cords are still inflamed and that has something to do with it? And he said, I don't know. He said, but let's try something. So we're going up into mode 2, getting into the higher voice. And like I said, it was starting not to feel right. And he said, okay, let's try something. And he said, this is your E5. Open for it. To sing higher notes, you have to have more space, which means you have to open the jaw a full rotation and feel it like click down. And that was something I was used to doing on about a G5. He said, do that on E5 and let's see how that sounds. I did it on E5. It felt great. It felt so much better. It still didn't sound the same as it did before. It didn't have that light, flexible sound like it did before, or feel. It felt very easy to sing. And so he was just looking at me like what is going on? It was the weirdest thing. And so we kept going up into the whistle voice. He said, now, if your voice is a mezzo-soprano, your whistle voice is now going to start at about a B5 instead of a C to a C sharp 6. And I said, okay. He said, so open like it's the whistle. I sang all the way up to an F6 like I never have before. It was the easiest thing ever. It was fantastic. And so we're all just sitting there like looking at each other like, I just sang up this high like it was nothing. What is going on? We're talking about this. And he said, Normally, voice changes happen when you're in your late teens. And I had known this before because I started taking lessons with him when I was about that age. And everybody knows that boys' voices change when they're in puberty, in their teens, and it's a very noticeable change. Girls' voices change too, but it's not that noticeable. But I definitely would expect an 18-year-old girl's voice to have fully changed. And he said, I think that your voice has just had a late voice change. And I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? This was going through my mind, but at the same time, it was the strangest feeling ever. I felt so relieved. Not because I was worried about what was going on with my voice. I knew it would all work out. I have faith, and I was praying about it, and I knew that that was him, and I knew that he wouldn't have brought me this far to fail, so I knew that everything was going to be fine. So it wasn't relief because I knew that my voice, what was going on with my voice. I can't really tell you why I felt relief, but I felt like such a burden had been lifted off of me. And I was just ready to embrace it, I guess. It was still kind of scary because I felt like a completely different person. I've been a soprano and singing as a soprano. When I was over in Australia singing with the choir at Sydney Opera House, I was a first soprano in that choir. I don't know, it was absolutely mind-blowing to me. And there was still a possibility that this wasn't a thing, but it was looking more and more like during that hour at my lesson that I was a mezzo-soprano. And the reason is because my transitions were so strong. There was absolutely no break. There was no cracking. There was no weakness. My voice sounded amazing. It was different, but it was amazing. So, I'm still a mezzo-soprano. Looks like I will be until my voice changes again and I become an alto. I don't know. But for right now, I'm a mezzo-soprano. Who would have thought? The one thing that's important is that, because even my voice instructor, my mom, they were worried that I wouldn't be okay with this. There's a lot of people that want to be something. Whether that be a soprano that can sing the Queen of the Night aria. Would that be amazing? Yes, it would. Have I dreamed about that? Yes, I have, but that's because I was a soprano singing soprano songs, singing like a soprano, sounding like a soprano. That's a soprano role, so it doesn't hurt to dream. But if I'm a mezzo-soprano, then there's no sense in me dreaming, and I don't care about dreaming about it because I know that that's not a possibility. And I know that a lot of people have a hard time accepting reality, but I don't. And so the whole thing about it being a hard to accept, it kind of is, just because my voice sounds very different. Even my speaking voice is a little bit different, and that's actually something that's taken me a lot longer to get used to. My speaking voice hasn't fully transitioned yet, so trying to find my speaking voice has been a little bit more of a challenge than it has for me to find my singing voice. And I think the most incredible thing about this, let me finish talking about. It is not hard for me to accept. It's hard for me to get used to, because it is something different. I have to get used to the way my voice sounds and feels and works now. It's a completely new instrument, where it sounded good as a soprano. I was happy with it. I was perfectly fine with it. But there was always something there that's just your voice isn't matured yet. Wait until you're a little older, in your 20s. Well, 20 rolls around, and forget all of that. I'm a mezzo-soprano now. Everything's fine with that. I'm fine with it. Mentally, emotionally. Because somebody did ask me, what is your emotional state with this? How are you feeling about this? I'm totally happy with it, because I can sing, and it's just taking a little bit of time to get used to. It's not that I'm upset about it in any shape or form. Like, if I'm a mezzo-soprano, I'm going to sing mezzo-soprano songs. I'm going to be happy with it because I'm singing. That's all that matters. And the other thing is that it happened right now. And I think this is where it also brings me so much peace as a Christian, in knowing that God works out everything in His time. And the way that this happened so quickly, it's almost like my voice changed overnight, because as I'm going to show you a little bit later, and if you didn't know, back in the month of December, I posted a video every single day for that whole entire month. And I recorded all those songs at the very end of November. So it was like November 29th or 30th or something like that. So it's been a little over a month. Well, I guess it's been a lot. It's like a month and a half, not quite 2 months yet, since I recorded all those songs. I recorded them all on one day and then posted them every day of the month. And I'm going to show you just like how quickly this changed, how I was singing then and how I'm singing now, and just like not even that difference, but the difference of what my voice sounds like. And so I'm going to show you all that, but it's just crazy because I was singing this way like a month ago, and now it's completely different. And it's not like there's any weakness in my voice now of it still transitioning or changing. It is what it is. And that just blows my mind, because God allowed this to happen right now, 3 weeks before my big project. And I just keep thinking, what if, like, it had happened after my project? What if, I mean, there's no sense in considering what if, but it's so humbling to think about how God works all this out. It's nowhere on my radar of possibilities of things that could happen. But God knew what was best. I just talked for an uber long time. I hope I can edit all that down. But I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about what being a mezzo-soprano looks like as compared to being a soprano.